Welcome to Permission to Shine, the space where high-achieving women like you come to peel back the layers, overcome what's been holding you back, and rise into your most authentic, powerful self. I'm your host, Sharice Bisram, inner power activation leader and intuitive healer, and a woman who knows what it means to look like she's thriving on the outside, also while feeling disconnected on the inside. This podcast is here to remind you, you didn't come here to just perform, you came here to lead with your soul. Your obstacles, they're invitations to expand. And your power, it was never outside of you. It's been waiting within you all along. Each week we'll dive into honest conversations, healing insight and soul-led strategies to help you stop self-sabotaging, reclaim your light and lead your life, your business and your relationships from deep-rooted truth. So if you're ready to rise with grace, softness and fire, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 103. And today I really want to talk to you about judgment. Now, I know if you've been listening to the episodes, I speak about judgment every so often, and I noticed for myself how much my internal dialogue was judging without me realizing. And I was like, I need to bring this forward to you because I think that I don't consider myself a judgmental person, by the way. So when I say I've noticed myself being judgmental, it's been in my internal dialogue, not so much in something that I've been saying outwardly or being overly opinionated on to other people, but the way I perceive things I'm talking about. So this is how your ego and your shadow self can be really sneaky and sabotaging you in everything that you are. And as most of you know, I've kind of been doing a lot of quantum leaping this year. So if you don't know, I've kind of had a lot of family dynamic situations happen and just growth things happen. And there's always a moment when the arrow pulls back before it launches forward. And I've very much been in a pullback, a pullback, a pullback. And I know the launch forward is where all the beautiful energy is. And every so often I feel like, right, I'm floating again. And then I'm like, oh, going back again. And that is the beauty of growth. Because here's the thing, I'm not someone that's planning on staying exactly where I am my whole life. I'm planning on moving forward at a rapid pace. And by the way, I say rapid pace. I don't mean rapid pace as in fast. I mean as in like covering as much ground as I possibly can, because I know that when I go first and learn the way, I can then show you how I got there, right? That's really all of my astrology, my human design, all of the things. That is literally what I'm here to do, create and be for the betterment of humanity, right? So what I've noticed in for me in the judgment piece is how I perceive other people's success, right? Now, this is super vulnerable, but super real. And I think that if you are someone that is a high achiever or a perfectionist or someone that is in the business space or in the performing space, you will know what I mean by this. So I've been really great at knowing that when someone else wins, around me, I know that that's an indication of the universe showing that it'll be my turn to win soon, right? That is the beauty of this space. But equally, even in that, like that's almost a comparison thing. Now, that's natural, right? We're always going to go through a process of when we are comparing ourselves and our successes. And it's a beautiful way for me, I feel, to take jealousy out of the equation, because it's like, wow, well done, you're winning. That's amazing for you. All that beautiful energy that you're emitting in your life is then pouring out onto others, and I'm celebrating you. Therefore, I'm bringing in the energy of celebrating me and someone to celebrate me too when it's my time. It's like a beautiful exchange. That's what I mean by that. But where it gets sneaky is when the shadow arises and it starts to look at why that person won and why you haven't won yet. And this is something that if you have been through a difficult time in your life, so for example, you've been through childhood trauma, or you've had lots of feast and famine cycles growing up, like financial situations were difficult for you, or maybe you had a lot of pressure put on you from a family member, maybe you yeah, didn't have the same start in life as a lot of people that you see as deemed as successful now. It's very easy to say, oh, but it's all right for you because of this, right? And I noticed myself do it the other day, and I was like, that's not me. That's my inner child crying for attention, right? So what I mean by this is it could be that, say, for example, someone is okay, real life example. Okay, currently at the moment, there is a bit of a lag in people investing, right? In whatever it is, right? I know the wedding industry is slower than it usually is. I know that, even the hairdressers are slower. It's just that people are more um I guess they're thinking more about how they spend their money. Whereas in the past, obviously, the industries were kind of moving quite fast, right? People are now becoming more considerate about how they spend their money, which, rightly so. I think we all are. But in turn, that has a knock-on effect on obviously all businesses and including obviously self-employed people, entrepreneurs, all of the things. So for the conversations I was having with some business friends. And, I'm still quite early on in my business career and I'm very aware of that. And sometimes I forget it, right? Because I'm surrounded by sometimes multi-millionaires and I'm thinking, oh, okay, yeah, like lovely to be in that energy and to aspire to that. And then you see the jump between the two. But I don't see that, right? I don't look at them and think, oh, they're so far away from me. I'm like, no, you are the energy you keep, and being in that energy is a reminder that it's possible for you, right? So that's that part to side. But what I do notice that my subconscious does is if people grew up with two parents and had financial support, meaning that, say, for example, you meet someone that is I don't know, look at Jamie Lang, for example. He's like the grandson of McVitie or something like that. If you meet him and he's a successful business owner compared to you that's just started your business selling rubber bands, for example, and you're looking at him skyrocket rocket to his success and you haven't yet, there would be the thing where you're like, oh, well, it's all right for him because he's the son of McVitie, right? That's not wrong to be like, okay, well, he's had all these opportunities given to him, handed on the plate. But what that is an invitation for your ego and your shadow self to then pull you into that lower frequency, which you don't need to be in. And a way to sort of like counteract that would be to say, how amazing that he has had a financial support system and hopefully was loved fully in that as well, because again we know that money isn't everything, and a lot of the times, not even a lot of times but sometimes, people that have really successful business and things like that might not have always been the family person. So then, the money was there but the love might not have been. That's something that we have to look at, and when we don't know all the answers and we don't know all of the parts of the story, our subconscious tries to fill it in. So then we start to develop these subconscious jealousy pockets, right? Because we've made up a story about that person that we don't even know. I've done it a few times in my life, and I think when I notice it, obviously I'm like, that's interesting. It is always within a shadow phase or a moment where something has appeared difficult for me, and then the shadow self tries to cling on to that feeling of suffering because it likes to suffer. The shadow wants you to sit in the darkness with it, but actually, your soul self, your full shining light version of you, doesn't need to fall into that pattern and trap. It just needs to acknowledge it. And that for me really is the antithesis of despair, really is acknowledgement. Because when you can say, okay, I see that pattern, I understand that's where I've been, or that's what I've done. I apologize to myself and to the other person involved because it isn't their fault. The judgment that we inflict on someone else is not their fault, it's ours. We've created the story. And so, apologizing energetically to that person and to yourself, but also forgiving yourself for it That there, chef's kiss. That is the beautiful energy of healing and reciprocity. Because when you put that good energy out into the universe and you apologize and you forgive yourself, you then clear any of that sticky, that kind of shadowy energy that was blocking your pathway begins to open up, right? And this is always what happens when you are shifting from your old timeline into your new one. And I spoke about this so many times because I've been in it, right? And what happens is when you enter a new level of something, or you're saying to the universe, for example, I'm ready to receive more. I'm ready for, yeah, maybe a new income goal is your point there. And you're like, right, I'm going to ascend up. There is going to be an influx of all the old stuff, the old beliefs, the old timelines. You might even get some X's creep up, and especially now we are in Mercury retrograde. So that is all possible. So all of the shadow stuff that meets you at the door of your new level, you're in the mezzanine floor of your new level, right? Of income, success, happiness, whatever it is, in order to get through the front door, all the way through into the main hall of your successes and opportunities, you have to sift through all of the darkness, right? And a lot of people will just pull up a tent and stay there. They'll be like, oh, I live here now. That's not possible for me. And without realizing they've moved in and they just never moved from that space, right? But if you see it as an invitation of, okay, well, maybe I don't even need to move anything physically, but I just need to develop the tools to be able to see in the dark. Because this is the beautiful thing about healing and the patterns that come up and come forward. There might be some bigger obstacles in that shadowy realm that you are, moving through that you haven't encountered before because they are deeper than where they were sitting in your previous level, right? But there will also be small little versions of what you've been through over and over again where you can just put your goggles on and just move around it because you don't need to do anything for it. But when it comes to inner judgment and self-criticism and criticism of others, that really is your invitation to do the heavy lifting, because that in itself is going to break whatever that big boulder was into a million different pieces. And so you can just sweep it away. Because I promise you now, like this week, I really have sat with my relationship to money, especially. And because Mars is now moved into Virgo is my second house, which rules money. And then there's also been some kind of other shadowy aspects that come up around that time. And I know that for me, I have been looking at the next financial goal. What does that look like for me? What does that feel like? How does that look in terms of what would I need to have in order to receive that? And equally, what do I not need to have? And what can I just trust in flow will come through as a byproduct of that? So because I declared that to the universe, then everything else about money has come forward. Now, my cycles with money have always been work hard, get paid. Yeah, that's always been my thing. But now, in this feminine frequency, the universe is saying to me, you can't do it that way anymore. And I'm giving you this very real time example because this might be the same as yours, or it might be completely different, but it is reality. Like this is something I'm moving through at the moment. And one of the biggest things that I've done in this week, especially, is the forgiveness work. That in itself, for me, energetically has cleared so much space. Like the deep level of peace that I'm feeling within myself today, and also the end of the week onwards, like I'd say a couple of days ago into this space, has been so much clearer than what I've been in. And it was in those moments, and I've had these little moments, like these little epiphanies over the course of the shadowy phases that I've been moving through over the last 6 months. But it was just a reminder of that this is the whole point, that it doesn't matter about the external, it doesn't matter about the money, the success, the opportunities. What matters is about how you feel about you. And when you can get to a space where you are proud of yourself and you can just sit in, it just is, that is the deep inner peace that you deserve. Because my subconscious will have me running a million miles an hour, will have me taking on so much stuff to the point that I break myself in half because that's all we ever knew. And I noticed that in my fear and panic over the last few months of like lots of different things happening and my old abandonment wound coming up, and then that shone a light on lack for me, and then shone a light on how I was overworking in my masculine again, and then trying to surrender into my feminine, but I didn't feel safe enough to be there. So all of these things are interconnected, and how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you are someone that, looks at yourself in the mirror and gives yourself criticism every day, you wonder why people around you don't love and respect you, is because they don't know who you really are, because you're not loving yourself enough. And they are then unfortunately conditional people in your life, because the amount you love yourself is the amount other people will love you, right? It's the same with yeah, I guess your relationship with anything is a depiction of your relationship with yourself. Yeah, just baseline. So it might not even be your physical appearance, but it might just be in, like, you say things like, oh, I'm so stupid, or I'm rubbish at maths, or I'm not good at that, or I couldn't even try, or I'd be rubbish if I tried at that. Like these little things that we say to ourselves are building up a whole story within our subconscious pattern. It's a bit like the film Inside Out. I literally saw a TikTok yesterday, and it said about how we are not the actor in the film, we are the screen watching the actor. And I was like, whoa, mic drop, because that is it, right? If anyone's read Eckhart Tolle's Seat of the Soul, that's what he speaks about. Everything that we see and we are is actually from our mind's eye. And even beyond that, it's our soul sitting on the throne inside of our brain, right? If you believe that, I do. And I think that we get caught up in the humanness of it, because that's the part we feel like we can control. Yeah. And so when I give you the example of like Inside Out, they're like the little emotions that are inside Riley's brain. And then we get to see how their emotional input affects Riley's life. And that is just you to a T. So when your emotional body, your inner world is at peace and harmony, everything outside of it will in turn work that way, right? And I think that so many of us, me included, are triggered by what happens in the outside world, and then make that our reality because we've believed it to be true. But actually, all it ever was an invitation to look at something that is still unhealed, sore, unlumpy thing that could be smoothed over, right? So I think that all of this, everything I'm saying to you is that you are not the limitations that are placed in front of you. They are a projection of the insecurities that you feel within yourself. Now, when it comes to money, I want you to look at, how do you feel about money as an entity, right? So if you think about money as energy and not as a tangible thing, but your relationship with the universe, God, whoever, whatever you call that source creation that's around us, maybe it is Sophia, whatever that energy looks like for you, what's your relationship with that? Because if you feel truly and deeply that you will always be provided for and supported by something outside of your control, that's energy, that in itself is a beautiful thing. And I've been reading I sometimes read money mindset books because, again, I'm just dedicated to growth, and I always like to, yeah, see someone else's perspectives. I've been listening to that Denise Duffield Thomas, and it's Get Rich Lucky Bitch. And it is all about how she does the subconscious work. And it got to the chapter around forgiveness. And I thought, do you know what? I haven't done anything like this in years. I haven't actually sat with my money in a really long time. And I was like, you know what? This is the invitation for me, because I know that all those feelings of abandonment that I've experienced over the last few months, I've healed through, have a knock-on effect to how much I feel safe in receiving money. And also, again, like I said, how much I'm controlling what I do in order to receive, accept, and all the things. So my journey's really been softening. And I thought, well, money's an indication of this vibration that I'm putting out and receiving. So I'm sharing it with you because it might help you, right? And the book so far is really fun. I'm listening to it, and her kind of little jokes and stuff are really cute, which is nice. And she basically said to write down all of the times that you remember in your life that you have, like I said, judged money or judged other people because of money. And then it's using the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono forgiveness ritual, which is you say in it, I don't know the particular order, and she also says the particular order doesn't matter, but again, this is a ancient ritual that is from Hawaii, so we have to respect it and say all of these things. That's why I'm giving you all the details, because I'm not one to claim anything as my own if it's not mine, right? So I'm going to give you the real tea on that. And it's basically underneath every statement that I've remembered or story, I literally just put, and I felt it, I forgive you. I'm sorry. I love you. Thank you. And I did that with every statement. And now, even in my subconscious, when things come up that I'm thinking about, I literally say it in my head. And it's been such a smoothing, like, ritual to do. And what's really beautiful about the Hawaiian culture is I had a massage about, I don't know, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago. It must have been the year of my 30th, actually. So it would have been 4 years ago. Wow, getting old now, girl. Um, and I remember having that massage, and that was just when my spiritual gifts were coming online, and I was clearing so much stuff because, again, my healing journey was very prevalent at that time. And I just felt like there was a room full of people that were supporting me and that's sending me love. And when I finished, I said to her, "Was you channeling energy in that?" And she went, "Yeah, I was." She went, "As part of the ritual for the Hawaiian, I don't know if it was the same Ho'oponopono um energy ritual and ancestral practice, we invite your ancestors into the room." And it was such a beautiful thing. So there's something there for me that I feel connected to about that culture. And yeah, I invite you to look deeper into that if it feels like it's something you resonate with. But give the ritual a try, like literally writing down all the things, and you can keep adding to it, right? There's no wrong or right in how you do it. I mean, there might be obviously by the tradition if you follow it practically, but from what my interpretation is of it that I've done for me that feels really lovely. This is what it looks like for me. But again, use your intuition and your discernment on that, because again, it's an ancient culture that we have to respect. And then she also mentions about writing a letter to money. Now, I love a letter. If you've been a client of mine, you'll know I love a letter, and I write it to my old self, an ex, old friends, people and situations that I'm in that I can't find the answer to, I write a letter to. So as soon as she said letter, I was like, yep, I'm in there. And actually, I was running it through ChatGPT as I normally do, because I use it as a soundboard to all most of my stuff. I'm using it yeah, just as a soundboard to sort of say, does this sound right? I'm not grammar correct. That's something I don't do very well on. I mean, how I got 2 degrees, I can't tell you. I don't know, magic. Well, it is magic, isn't it? But yeah, using that to soundboard. And then even ChatGPT said to me, "Have you written a new letter to money?" And I was like, "Do you know what? I haven't yet. I'm going to do it." So yeah, just wrote a beautiful letter to money, saying thank you and forgiving it and myself, and especially myself. And I was coming humble with that about how I'd maybe mistreated money in the past, and also how my relationship with money had been quite narcissistic in the past. Now, I'm not a narcissistic person. However, when I was in that stage of feeling like I had to work hard to gain money, that is a very controlling way, like I said, and that in itself is sort of an element of narcissism, right? Because I'm thinking that money has to do what I say because I want it to do it, right? So if you think about it like that, it's like, yeah, actually, that is a little bit of narcissism. And I thought, I need to apologize to money for that. Now, you might think I'm absolutely crazy, but I believe everything is energy. And I do believe that money will listen to that and feel that energy and that vibration, because whether it's just me listening to that for myself and my inner dialogue, or money itself as a vibration is responding, whatever that looks like, there's no harm in it. There's no harm, right? It's all for the good of all, because I know that when I heal something and I share it, someone benefits from it. And even if it's not a direct thing, I notice it in my content all of the time that I will share a bit of insight on a TikTok or an Instagram. And then naturally, the people around me are maybe starting to speak about the same thing, or, mirroring a similar concept. And that's not them copying, that's them picking up on the vibration of that healing energy space. And this is where we go from the ego to the soul. And we're like, the mission isn't, I came up with this, so it's mine. The mission is, when one of us heal, we all heal. And if that this is the ripple in the ocean that ascends further and further because we're inspiring more people to do the same thing, that in itself is beautiful. So that's where we go from taking judgment, taking the power out of it, and then placing the power back into ourselves, into love, into peace, and trusting that that is what's going to change the world. So for me, acknowledgement of the part we play in a situation, compassion for ourselves too, accountability. You have to be accountable for the part that you play. That's where you lead with integrity. So when you're wrong, or when something didn't go the way that you planned, leading with integrity is obviously everything. And, even now, like everything I'm sharing with you is because I want you to grow and evolve too. You know, I'm not never speaking to my audiences from a place of, I know better than you. It's not that. It's that I'm on the ground with you, and I'm doing my best. I'm harvesting all of these crops, and I want you to eat with me, right? That is my epitome of everything I know that I'm here to do and more. And funny enough, I actually have created a new why I do what I do post on my Instagram. So if you'd like to go and have a look, it just gives you a little bit more information about my story. And I think yeah, I've kind of had to sit with that again. And it took me hours yesterday to kind of decipher it all again, because it's just really fascinating when you think about how far you've come and where you've come from. And really that beautiful thing. And even in the judgments that were coming up for me in my subconscious about, oh, well, it's okay for them because they grew up safe. They grew up loved. They grew up financially supported. Like those little things that I saw for myself. I'm like, actually, where do I have that now? Where is someone looking at me thinking, oh, well, it's all right for her because of her, and they are, of course they are. So it's like, actually, instead of seeing the gap or what you don't have, what do you have? I'm so grateful and lucky that I've been able to really work at my relationships with my family. So my dynamics now are really beautiful, and there's so much love present in my home and in my family dynamics. And even just down to like the self-trust and the self-love that I have emanates across all space and time. And it's something that people always say to me, like, you're glowing, your energy's magnetic, all of these things. And that's because it's true. And I think that in itself is like, you can always get stuck in comparing yourself to other people. But instead of using that as a slide to keep falling deeper and deeper, it's like, actually, how can I appreciate what I have already? And how can I forgive this part of me that wants to judge others? Because, that was something that was grained into us as women as well from society. But it's like taking that out. How can we release the judgment that we have in order to create the life that we want and a better world for the next generation to come, right? And ourselves. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you because it very much is what I'm working through. And again, that forgiveness part and taking the judgment out of it is healing that sisterhood wound more and more each time. I didn't feel like I had that deep of a sisterhood wound, but then when those little things are coming up, I was like, these are little flexes of that sisterhood wound, and I don't want that in my energy because I love supporting women and girls, and that's something I want to continue to do forever. So yes, that is your invitation. And as always, my invitation to you is that my inner power portal is open, and the portal is a community space. So if you're looking for a community of like-minded women that are learning to learning to move with the moon cycles, that's what I'm trying to say, and connect deeper to who they really are on a soul level, do this inner work, the shadow work, and meet their inner child in a way that feels safe and inviting, and you can work through it in your own time. All of the live trainings I do, 2 a month around the moons, are always recorded in the portal. So you can just catch up as and when you like, when feels good to you, right? And it really is deep layers of work and soul alchemy that you deserve to have these access to, so you can then use it as a tool for yourself in your everyday life. That is your invitation there. And for the woman that's listening to this thinking, I really need to do this deep work, I don't know where to begin, but I know that I need to walk this path, then I invite you to drop me a DM or head to my link that has a 30-minute call, and we will just speak through how I can support you in a one-to-one journey, whether that's 6 months or a year. Because again, I want to give you the time and space to be able to really work through the high achieving, high performing, the being the strong one, the eldest daughter, perhaps, whatever that's been for you, how you can soften. Because when we shorten the time frame, it feels like a rush.
If this episode
and your
resonated
ego
with
is in
you,
a rush, right?
please
But your
do
soul
like,
isn't. So
share,
inviting you back
and
to this
send to
place of
someone you know that
deep
would
inner
benefit.
safety, inner
If
peace,
what I've
inner
said in
love,
this
inner
episode
happiness, 'cause that's what
resonates
you
with
truly
you,
deserve.
please don't
So
hesitate to drop
on
me a
that note,
message so
I
we can
wish you a
begin
beautiful week.
your
It is
journey
Mercury
of
retrograde, so go
self-empowerment
easy, go
through
steady.
self-discovery.
The
My
retrograde's all
process
about
is
reflect,
simple.
revise, revisit,
Understand what
check
happened to
everything
you
over,
so you can
check your
accept
travel,
it.
check your
From there,
documents.
you can
Everything will
release
be
what
kind of
no
up in
longer
the air,
serves
but
you,
again,
and
an
then we
invitation
begin
to
to
dive in.
rebuild
And
your
this week I will be
self-worth, your
holding a new moon
self-esteem,
in Leo
and your self-trust
ceremony
to
on Wednesday, the
ultimately
23rd of
ensure
July. If
that
you are
you
listening to
become the
time,
version
and
of
I'd love to
yourself that
invite
you
you
were
in. And
destined
if
to
you're
be.
listening to this after, it will be
Time to
recorded
give
in the
yourself the
portal.
permission to
So
shine.
please feel free to access the portal and then catch up in your own time. Wishing you a beautiful week. We're entering Leo season. I can feel the shift. Lots of love.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please do comment as well what you feel like you've learned from the episode. It's really helpful. And if you can rate it on a 5-star review, I would be so grateful, because that just means that more women get access to these teachings within the episodes. And also, who would you like to be on the show? DM me and let me know. And please do share with a friend that you know needs to hear what's in this episode today. I would also love to invite you into my inner power portal, because that is the space where all of my meditations are, all of my activations, and I host 2 live sessions per month that do include movement and my spiritual downloads and all the beautiful things that I offer all in one space. Plus you get to ask me any questions that you have. So I'd love to see you in there. Have a great week.